The engines of the human freighter Trailblazer groaned as it drifted through a dead zone. No come signals. No life, just silence and space dust. Captain Dax Monroe leaned back in his pilot chair, staring at the dim lights on the control panel. The ship was old, patched with scrap metal, and still smelled faintly of burnt coolant. He'd been flying alone for 2 years. After the war ended, he chose this life, quiet, simple, no orders, no attachments, until yesterday. He'd picked up a new cleaning technician at Port Gresh 9. She looked young, maybe 20 in human years, pale skin with a soft purple hue. 2 small antennae peeked from under her dark hair, twitching when she was nervous. She didn't say much, only bowed low and called him sir with a soft accented voice. He didn't ask questions. Aliens from war-torn colonies often offered work in exchange for food and transport. She said her name was Zari. Now she moved silently through the cargo bay, wiping down walls and vents. She worked hard. Too hard. Dax had noticed how spotless the floors were getting cleaner than when the ship was brand new. She scrubbed with focus, not like someone doing a job, but like someone trying to forget something. Then, that morning, he found her kneeling near the power core chamber, face pressed to the floor, her cleaning rag forgotten beside her. She was shaking. Zari? Dax stepped closer. She didn't respond. He knelt and gently touched her shoulder. She flinched like she'd been struck, then looked up with wide, wet eyes. Her voice trembled. Forgive me, I thought. You weren't aboard. You okay? She opened her mouth, closed it again. Then she whispered, You're not like them. Dax frowned. Them? She wiped her eyes quickly and gave a shaky smile. It's nothing. I'll finish cleaning now. That was the second time she'd said something strange. The first time was the night before, when she asked if he'd like extra services while cleaning the cockpit. Dax had stared at her, unsure he heard her right. I clean thoroughly, she said again, lowering her eyes. And I offer warmth, that is normal, on some ships. He'd told her he didn't expect anything beyond what she agreed to when boarding. Just cleaning, no more. She'd nodded quickly, bowing again, as if bracing for punishment. Now watching her wipe the walls like her life depended on it, he realized maybe it did. That night, the ship's motion detectors ripped. Dax checked the screen. Someone was in the engine room. He grabbed his pistol and moved quickly through the narrow corridors. The metal floor vibrated faintly beneath his boots. When he reached the engine room, he found Zari crouched by a vent, her small hands gripping something tightly. Back away, Zari. She turned slowly, eyes full of fear and shame. In her hand was a tiny communicator, not human-made. It blinked red. He stepped forward and snatched it from her hand. Who are you talking to? Dax asked. No one, she said quickly. Please don't send me back. Back where? She looked like she wanted to answer. Then her whole body tensed and a siren blared through the ship. Dax turned to the console nearby. Unidentified ship approaching, the system warned. Armed, scanning. He looked at her again. Her skin had gone pale blue, and her antennae trembled. They followed me, she said softly. I didn't mean to lead them here. Dax narrowed his eyes. You used this to ping them? No, she said, tears welling up. I tried to warn someone. Anyone. But they heard. They always hear. They tracked the signal, please. I didn't mean to harm your ship. The console beeped again. Boarding clause detected. Hull breach in 90 seconds. Dax turned to the engine panel, slammed a few controls. He needed time. He needed answers. Who are they? He asked. She stood shakily. They call themselves purifiers. They don't believe my kind should exist. Why? Because we served your kind. Humans, we were marked. They think we single quotes tainted. Dax stared at her. You were in the war? I was a child worker on a human supply cruiser. When the war ended, we were left behind. The others didn't forget. They punish anyone who shows mercy to humans. Even cleaning your ship. It's enough reason for them to kill me. The ship shook as the enemy ship latched on. Dax holstered his pistol. Can you fight? She looked up. I can try. He handed her a shock baton from the wall. Then stick close. Her fingers closed around it slowly. You're not scared? She asked. I've fought worse than cowards who hunt cleaners. She smiled. Just slightly. And then the lights went red. They were aboard. The metal hallway groaned as heavy boots landed on the ship's floor. Dax raised his arm, signaling Zari to stay behind him. He moved swiftly, rifle drawn, footsteps silent. Years of battle had taught him how to breathe in tense moments like this. Zari followed close, her eyes flicking from shadow to shadow. Body moved with strange, fluid graceless like a soldier. More like a creature born to hide in darkness. The attackers came fast. Not in armor, not in uniform. They wore rags stitched with blood symbols, and their eyes were wild with hate. Dax didn't wait. The first one rounded the corner with a blade. Dax shot him clean through the chest. Go for the cargo hold, he whispered to Zari. Lock it. If I don't come back, I won't leave, she whispered. Not again. He gave her a sharp look, but there was no time to argue. Another shadow moved. I spun, shock baton swinging. It cracked against a purifier's side, sending sparks through his suit. He dropped, convulsing. Her eyes widened at what she'd just done, but there was no chance to pause. A third came down from a crawlspace above. Dax shot twice, fast, center. Mass. He grabbed Zari's wrist and pulled her toward the side corridor. Bridge, we take control. Lock down everything else. She nodded. Her breathing was heavy now, but her steps were light. She wasn't just some scared cleaner. She was something more. Inside the bridge, Dax locked the doors and hit emergency bulkheads. Metal slammed shut through the ship, sealing off all entry points, but the purifiers had already cut their way in. It was just a matter of time before they broke through again. Why would they chase you this far? He asked, turning to her. I was staring at the control panels, her fingers twitching. Because I escaped. From what? From the breeding pens. Dax blinked. She spoke with no emotion. They don't just kill my kind anymore. They use us, female workers, former human allies. They turn us into breeders for their soldiers. I ran. I stowed away on a transport, then cleaned toilets to pay for food. But I can't hide forever. They always find us. She looked at him now. I offered extra services not because I wanted to, but because I thought you'd expect. It most humans do. I'm not most humans. I know that now. Dax moved back to the console. I can eject the cargo hold, create a burst, maybe fake our destruction. Zari stepped forward. It won't work. They scan heat trails. Dax looked at her. Then what do you suggest? She took a breath. Let me out through the side airlock. They want me, not you. They'll take me and leave. You'd go back to that? I won't let you die for me. I didn't ask your permission, Dax said. His voice was low, firm. You're on my ship. And while you're here, no one uses you like that again. She blinked, surprised. But we need to get smart, he added. They expect us to run or hide. We're going to fight. Zari hesitated, then nodded slowly. There's a hidden, weak point behind their necks, where the bone meets the soft ridge. How do you know that? She looked down. I've been close. Too close. Dax handed her a plasma knife. We'll go together. Quiet, room by room. I'll draw their eyes, you hit the mark. She hesitated only a second. Okay. They moved through the ship like ghosts, Dax leading, Zari shadowing him. One by one, they took down the invaders. Each purifier moved like a fanatic, screaming strange chants before charging. But Dax was calm, calculating. And Zari struck fast, true. her knife finding the exact soft point every time. They reached the engine chamber again. The last of the invaders stood near the core, planting an explosive charge. Zari didn't wait. She sprinted, moved faster than Dax thought she could. Her feet barely touched the floor. The purifier turned too late. Her blade slipped into the back of his neck. He dropped. She stood still, chest heaving. Dax walked over and pulled the charge free. "You're not just a cleaner." "No," she said, "but I didn't know what else I could be." He looked at her. "You're a fighter." Her voice was soft. "Only because I had no other choice." They stood there, surrounded by bodies and blinking warning lights. Then, silence. The ship's alarm stopped. The threat was gone, but in Zari's eyes, something else was just beginning. She was still shaking, still scared, but she was free. And this time, she wouldn't run. The Trailblazer drifted in silence now. The enemy ship had detached after their boarding party failed to respond. Either they believed their crew had completed the mission, or they were afraid. Dax didn't care which. He watched it disappear into deep space while sitting alone in the bridge, his jaw tight and fists clenched. Zari was in the medical bay. She'd taken a deep cut across her arm during the last fight. Dax had insisted she get it treated, but she hadn't even noticed she was bleeding until he pointed it out. She just kept wiping blood off the floor, like it was part of the job. He stepped into the med bay quietly. She sat on the edge of the table, cleaning the wound herself. The bandage roll trembled in her hands. "You should rest," Dax said. She flinched but didn't argue. "I'm not used to resting," she replied softly. "Rest feels dangerous." Dax leaned against the wall. "You're safe now. For real." She gave a weak smile. "You say that, but space is full of people who think I'm a traitor, a toy, or both." He stayed quiet. The pain in her voice was the kind no words could fix. After a pause, she asked, "Why didn't you take what I offered?" Dax looked straight at her. "Because I'm not like the ones who broke you." She swallowed hard. "Sometimes I wonder if that's all I'm good for. If I'm only useful. When someone needs a cleaner, or something worse. You're more than that. You showed it back there. You fought. You saved my life. I didn't save you. I just didn't want to be alone again." There was silence between them. Not awkward, just heavy. Dax finally said, "You're not alone." "Not anymore." She looked away, but he could see her eyes soften. He turned to go. "I'll be in the cockpit. Let me know if the pain gets worse." As he walked out, Zari whispered behind him, "Thank you for not being like them." He didn't answer, but the door closed with a soft click, leaving her in warm quiet for the first time in years. The next morning, something changed. Zari came to the bridge with her long dark hair tied up and a new calm in her eyes. She wore her utility suit like armor. She didn't ask for orders. She just started checking the side panels, cleaning up damage from the attack, repairing wires. Dax watched her from the pilot's chair. "Planning to take over the ship?" She smirked. "Just trying to keep busy." He grinned. "Good, because we've got a problem." Zari straightened. "Another attack?" "No, something worse. We're low on fuel. Those clowns drained our reserves during the breach." Her shoulders tensed. "I know a place," she said carefully. "But it's not safe." "Define not safe." "It's a mining outpost. Abandoned now. My people used to work there before the purifiers burned half of it down. Supplies still left? Maybe, but the ones who stayed behind didn't all survive clean. Some say ghosts roam the lower decks." Dax raised a brow. "You believe in ghosts?" She shrugged. "I believe in pain that doesn't leave." He nodded slowly. "Set a course. We'll go together." The trip took 5 hours. When the Trailblazer landed on the ruined station, the lights flickered. Metal creaked like something alive. Walls were scorched, cables hung from the ceiling like vines. Dust floated in the air. Zari walked a step behind Dax, her shock baton in one hand, a small sensor tool in the other. "This way," she whispered. Fuel storage was through here. The hallway narrowed. It was dark. Suddenly, the motion sensor on Dax's belt blinked. Something was moving. He stopped. So did Zari. A low groan echoed from behind the wall. Not mechanical, not human either. Zari's grip tightened. "That wasn't here before. Stay behind me." They turned the corner and saw it. A thin, tall alien creature stood. Hunched, wires sticking out of its body. Its skin was dry, gray, half-burned, but its eyes glowed red. It looked at Zari and hissed. She froze. The thing spoke in a broken voice. "You served the humans." Zari shook her head. "I only wanted to live." "You will not live here," it rasped. It lunged. Dax fired first. The blast hit the creature in the shoulder, spinning it into the wall. It screeched, but didn't fall. Another blast. This time, Zari fired from a stolen purifier weapon she'd tucked under her arm. The creature finally dropped. Zari ran to it, breathing hard. She stared at its face, then whispered, "I knew him. He used to cling beside me, before they took him." Dax checked the hallway. Then they used him. Twisted his body into something else. Zari said nothing. But inside, something hardened in her. She wouldn't end up like that. Not ever. And no one else would, if she had anything to say about it. Zari stood over the dead creature's body, her eyes not blinking. The strange red glow in his eyes had faded now. But the memory of his voice, so broken, so full of pain, echoed in her mind. It was like hearing a ghost speak through ruined lungs. Dax placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "You knew him?" She nodded. "His name was Yarek. He was gentle. He used to hum while scrubbing walls. He wouldn't hurt a bug." Dax looked at the wires sticking out of the corpse. They did something to him. Some kind of neural override. They used his mind and body like a weapon. Zari turned slowly. "That could have been me." "No," Dax said. "You're still you." She looked at him with hollow eyes. "For how long?" They didn't speak for a while. The hallway was quiet again, except for the quiet whine of distant air leaks and the occasional clatter of falling debris. They moved deeper into the station. The further they went, the worse the damage got. Burned walls, shattered panels, bones. Zari led Dax through a narrow side corridor. The map on her scanner flickered, showing the way to the lower fuel tanks. When they reached the sealed door, she dropped to her knees and pulled off a panel. Her fingers worked fast, reconnecting wires, rerouting power. "You've done this before," Dax said. "I escaped from a place like this," she replied. "I had to learn fast." The door hissed open. The fuel room was still intact. 4 tanks stood in place, blinking green. Dax smiled. Lucky day. But as he moved toward the tanks, Zari's head snapped up. Her antennae twitched. She grabbed his arm. "Wait, what is it?" "I feel something." Before Dax could speak, a loud metal bang echoed above them. Then another. Footsteps. Heavy ones. Multiple. Dax backed away from the tanks, raising his rifle. Zari scanned the ceiling with sharp eyes. "It's not the purifiers. These steps, they're too fast, too organized." Then a voice came through the station's broken intercom. Female, robotic, cold, unauthorized access detected. Reclamation team en route. Zari's blood ran cold. "Oh no." Dax looked at her. "What's reclamation?" "Machines," she whispered. "AI-built hunters. The purifiers couldn't track us here. But the original mining AI probably did. Anyone who enters without proper clearance is considered salvage, meaning they'll tear you apart for parts. And keep me alive for programming." Dax cursed. "Can we lock this room?" Zari shook her head. "Too late. They're already inside." He looked at the tanks. "How?" Fast can we transfer fuel to the ship? 6 minutes, if nothing goes wrong. Something slammed against the hallway door. Something just went wrong. Dax aimed at the ceiling. Hook into the tanks, I'll handle them. Zari didn't argue. She ran to the fuel ports and connected her handheld transfer pump, fingers moving fast, ignoring the sweat dripping from her brow. The first machine broke through the hallway. It was tall, metal gray with long mechanical arms and bladed fingers. Its eyes scanned red across the room like a scanning laser. Biological assets detected. Begin reclamation, Dax fired. The bullet sparked off the machine's shoulder. It turned toward him like a predator locking eyes with prey. Then it ran. Dax dove sideways, just as it slashed through the spot where he had been standing. The metal claw tore a long scar into the wall behind him. Zari screamed, ducking down. Dax rolled and fired 3 more times. The final shot hit something important. The machine jerked and fell, twitching, but more footsteps echoed in the hallway. Dax grabbed a grenade from his belt. We can't hold them long. Zari's voice came from under the console. Fuel at 40%. Then we're buying time. 3 more machines entered. One leaped at him like a silver demon. Dax fired again and again, emptying the clip. But they just kept coming. Zari rose from the fuel console, her eyes wild. Dax, move. He dove to the left, and she slammed her tool into the power relay. The overload sparked. A blast of energy surged through the room, frying the first 2 bots instantly. Zari flew backward, hitting the wall hard. Dax ran to her side. You okay? She groaned. Still ... hole. He helped her up, and she limped back to the pump. Fuel's at 70%, she said. Almost there. Another sound. Something massive entered the hallway. A heavier unit. Tank legs. Dual arms. A voice from its speaker said, Final. Warning, you will be processed. Dax looked at Zari. We've got 1 chance. I'll distract. You finish the pump, then run. She grabbed his arm, eyes fierce. I'm not running anymore. The massive bot raised its guns. Zari turned, pulled a panel from the wall, and exposed live wires. She shoved them into the fuel pump. The machine took a step. The room filled with fire. For a moment, all Dax could see was orange light, heat, smoke, and Zari pulling him out with all her strength, both of them coughing, both alive, barely. The hallway behind them burned as the explosion sealed off the fuel room. Smoke curled through the vents. Dax stumbled forward with Zari half dragging him, both coughing hard. His ears rang, his side throbbed. But they were alive. Zari looked back once, eyes squinting through the smoke, making sure nothing followed. No red lights, no footsteps, no machines. We have to move, she said. Dax nodded and leaned on her. Can you get us back to the ship? Yes, but you're bleeding. I've bled worse. Just keep going. They moved through the corridors, step by step, while emergency lights flickered weakly above. Zari led them down a side tunnel. She remembered from long ago. It had once been a delivery shaft for food crates. Now it was covered in dust, but still solid. It opened near the loading bay where Trailblazer waited. As they reached the exit, Dax collapsed to his knees. Zari dropped beside him. You're losing blood. Had to protect the tank, he muttered. Did we get it? She smiled through. Exhaustion, 90%. Enough to get us far away from here. He tried to laugh but winced instead. She pulled his arm over her shoulder and stood. Come on, Captain. Just a little more. Once they made it to the ship, Zari sealed the hatch behind them. She dropped him on the medbay bed and pulled supplies. She worked fast cleaning the wound, sealing it, bandaging his ribs. You've done this before, Dax whispered, half-conscious. I told you, she said softly. I had to learn everything alone. When she was done, he grabbed her wrist weakly. You didn't leave me behind. Even when you had the chance. I told you I wouldn't. You had every reason to. She shook her head. Not anymore. He gave her a tired smile. You're stronger than most soldiers I knew. She looked at him, then stopped calling me a cleaner. He blinked, then laughed softly. Deal. For the first time since she stepped on board, Zari sat down, not to work, not to hide, but just to sit. Her legs were shaking, her chest still rising fast, but she felt something new. Something she hadn't felt in years. Safe. The next day, the ship flew through dark space again. Dax stayed in bed resting. Zari stayed close, checking the controls, scanning for danger. Then the comms crackled. Dax stirred. Who is it? Zari answered. Encrypted message. Looks human, from an old military beacon. She pressed a button and the voice came through calm. Official. Emotionless. To any surviving vessels in outer range, a bounty has been placed on all known alien fugitives connected to human affiliations. Any human aiding such individuals will be labeled a traitor to the new order. Dax sat up fast. Repeat that. Zari's eyes widened. She repeated the message. Same words. His face darkened. New order? That movement died after the war. Zari shook her head. No, they just hid, like us. Dax stood slowly. They've put prices on your kind. And anyone who helps us, she said. They stared at each other. Suddenly, Trailblazer's alarm beeped. Zha. I turned fast. Small ship. Approaching. No weapons visible. It's broadcasting civilian tags. Dax frowned. Could be pirates. Could be worse. Prepare evasive maneuvers. As she reached for the controls, the ship hailed them, requesting docking permission. One passenger, unarmed, carrying wounded. Zari and Dax exchanged looks. I don't trust it, Dax said. But if it's real, Zari stood still. I know what it's like to send a signal and pray someone answers. Dax sighed. Let them in, but lock down every corridor. When the small shuttle connected, Dax stood ready with a weapon in hand. The door opened slowly. A young alien boy stepped through, holding up a bloody cloth. Behind him, slumped over. His shoulder was a female barely conscious, her skin pale and marked with scars. One antenna was snapped. Zhar. I rushed forward. Help her. The boy cried. She protected me. They burned our village. Everyone else is dead. Zari caught the woman before she fell. Dax knelt to the boy. You're safe now. We've got. As Zari guided the alien woman to the med bay, her hands shook, but not from fear. From purpose. She looked back at Dax. There are more out there, like her, like me, running, hiding. Dax nodded slowly. Then let's find them. Zari smiled, for real this time. The war wasn't over. But now, they had a crew. Asterisk, the alien. Woman lay on the med bay table, her breathing shallow, skin nearly white. Zari moved quickly, cleaning the wounds, injecting a stabilizer, whispering soft words in her native tongue. The boy watched from the corner, his small hands trembling. Too scared to speak, Dax stood beside the door, watching it all. He had seen injured soldiers before. Burned, broken, left to die. But this was different. These weren't soldiers. They were just survivors. How old is she? He asked softly. Maybe 30 cycles, Zari replied, brushing the woman's hair gently. She's from the East Colonies. Her markings say she was once bonded, a mother. Dax looked at the boy. Her son? Probably not by blood, Zari said. But now she's all he has. The boy's eyes lifted, wide and afraid. They said humans would sell us. Dax crouched down beside him. I'm not one of those humans. The boy hesitated. You didn't shoot me. No, I only shoot monsters. The boy lowered his head. They called her a traitor. She healed a wounded soldier, a human, so they burned our tent. Zari clenched her fists. How long until she wakes up? Dax asked. She's strong, Zari said. She survive. The lights flickered above them. Suddenly, the ship's AI voice rang out. Multiple vessels detected. Tracking lock engaged. 3 purifier scouts approaching. Dax moved to the bridge, checking the screen. How did they find us again? Zari joined him, her face tight. That emergency beacon we answered. They could have traced it. Of course, Dax muttered. It was bait. The boy stepped into the room, eyes wide. Will they kill her if they catch us? Yes, Dax said bluntly. And probably worse. Zari turned to the pilot's seat. We run. We won't outrun them for long, Dax said. They're faster. She glanced over her shoulder. Then we'll outsmart them. Dax raised an eyebrow. You have a plan? Maybe. She brought up the nav map. There's a nebula 3 clicks from here. Plasma storms. Electromagnetic interference. No sensors, no tracking. Dax nodded slowly. Risky, that place kills navigation. That's why they won't follow. Dax thought for a second. Then he nodded. Do it. Zari took the controls. Her fingers moved confidently, like she'd done it 100 times. The ship lurched forward, engines roaring. The boy fell back into a chair and held tight. Behind them, the purifier ships closed in dark. Sharp, insect-shaped, their engines glowing red. They're gaining, Dax said. I know, Zari replied. The nebula loomed ahead, a swirling mass of purple, blue, and gold. Static sparked across the edge like lightning trapped in clouds. Entering in 30 seconds. She said. The ship rocked. Shields at 60%, Dax warned. Those pulses are strong. Zari narrowed her eyes. We need to disappear. She flipped a few switches, then pulled a lever Dax didn't recognize. What did you just do? Power redirection. I'm blowing the heat core into space. The back of the ship erupted with a massive burst of flame-false engine heat. To any sensors, it looked like the ship had exploded. The purifier scouts stopped just outside the storm's edge. Did it work? Dax asked. Zari checked the radar. They're scanning, not moving in. A few long seconds passed. The ships finally turned away. We did it, Zari whispered. The ship floated deeper into the nebula. Alarms went quiet. Outside, plasma flickered like lightning bugs dancing. Inside the med bay, the woman groaned. Zari rushed to her side. The boy followed quickly. The woman opened her eyes. Weakly but alive. You're safe, Zari said gently. The woman looked at the boy and whispered, You're still here. He nodded. She saved us. Zari looked back toward the hallway where Dax stood, watching in silence. That night, they sat together in the mess hall. Zari, Dax, the boy, and the woman, who now sat up with a blanket over her shoulders. No one said much. The food was simple, the room quiet. Then the boy asked, What now? Zari answered first. Now we rest. Then we find others. There are more like us, Dax nodded. We'll turn this ship into something more than a freighter. Something stronger, a home, a warning. The woman whispered, They'll keep coming. Zari looked at her. Then let them. We won't hide anymore. Dax leaned back in his chair. We make this our last run, but not just to survive. He looked at Zari. We fight. She met his eyes. Together. Outside, the nebula swirled like fire wrapped in stars. But inside, the trailblazer, hope had sparked quietly, but brighter than any weapon they could build, and it was just the beginning. The trailblazer drifted quietly just beyond the plasma storms. Repairs were underway, but the real work had already begun. Not fixing hull panels or weapons, something deeper. Zari stood in the main cargo bay, welding a new symbol onto the inner wall, a circle with 2 hands, one human and one alien, holding each other. It was simple, but it meant something now. Dax walked in, holding 2 mugs of hot liquid. Still working? She turned and took one from him. Feels strange not to. He sipped his drink, then looked at the symbol. You made that? For the ship, for us. I like it, he said. It's better than my old unit patch. That was just a skull with wings. Didn't mean much. This means survival, she said. And something else. What? She looked at him, belonging. He nodded, and they both stood in silence for a while, watching the symbol. The woman they had rescued, Saren, was walking again though. Slowly, the boy Luno had started calling Dax Captain like it was the most natural thing in the world. More messages had come through in the past week. Not from enemies but from other outcasts, old allies, alien survivors. Even a few humans who had rejected the new order. They were scattered, across sectors, hiding, starving, waiting. Zari showed Dax one message in particular. Coordinates, she said. There's an abandoned repair station orbiting a dead moon. The old crew ran after the war. It's still powered. You want to take it? She nodded. Turn it into a safe place. A real one. Dax thought for a second. If we do that, we won't be just running anymore. We'll be targets. We already are, he smiled. Fair point, they agreed. 3 days later, the Trailblazer came out of warp near the broken moon. The station looked like a skeleton, long arms stretched out into space, flickering lights still blinking after all these years. But the core structure held. Dax docked the ship. They entered carefully, weapons ready, but no one was there. Just dust, broken crates, faded banners of an old human mining group. They powered the place up slowly. Zari ran diagnostics, bypassed rusted locks, and brought the main lights online. The station hummed to life. It wasn't perfect, but it was theirs now. Dax and Zari walked through what used to be the command deck. She looked out through the giant glass window at the stars beyond. This could be home, she said. It already is, Dax replied. That night, they sent out a message. Not a cry for help, not a distress call. It was an open invitation. To anyone lost, hunted, abandoned, human or alien. If you need shelter, you'll find it here. If you're willing to help protect others, you'll find a purpose. And if you're tired of running, come stand with us. Then they waited. For 2 days, nothing happened. Then one small ship arrived. A mechanic from the outer belt, missing a leg, piloting a junker made of scrap. He brought spare parts. Next, a cargo hauler with 4 alien refugees, 1 blind. 2 injured, 1 pregnant. They carried stories, not weapons. Then more, a fighter pilot, an old war medic, a child with burns and no parents. Each new arrival brought a new piece to something bigger. Zari worked every hour she could. Organizing, building, patching up systems. Dax trained volunteers to fight if needed. Saren helped heal. Luno guarded the entry with a toy blaster, eyes fierce like a soldier already. Within weeks, the station had a name. Haven 9. Whispers spread through the sectors, quiet at first, then louder. A human was sheltering aliens. An alien girl who once offered extra services to survive was now a commander. And no one who came to their door left hungry or afraid. But peace never lasts forever. A fleet appeared one morning, 3 Purifier cruisers. Dax and Zari stood side by side on the main deck as alarms rang. Fighters scrambled. Defense systems powered up. Zari looked at him. They came to silence us, Dax grinned. Let them try. The first cruiser sent a warning. Surrender the fugitives, and the human captain will be spared. Dax didn't reply. He looked at Zari, then opened the comms himself. We're not fugitives. We're a family now. And if you want to tear us apart, come and see what it costs. From behind them, dozens of people stood ready, engineers, mothers, old soldiers, former slaves. Some holding tools, others with weapons. All of them willing. The Purifiers hesitated. Then, shockingly, one ship turned away. Another followed. Only the last remained. But by then, something amazing happened. More ships arrived, not enemies, but allies. Ships flying no flag. Just survivors who'd heard the message. Haven 9 now had a fleet. The final Purifier cruiser turned without a fight. They were not ready for this. Zari turned to Dax. You think they'll come back? Definitely, he said. And we'll be ready, she smiled. Because we're not hiding anymore. No, Dax said. We're building something better. And as the stars turned above them and the engines of hope roared in the hangars, Haven 9 lit up the dark. Not just as a refuge, but as a beginning.